Okay, it's preparing. Okay. Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you.
Good. So, Sarah, you have been working with me for about 2 years at this point, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah, definitely on and off, which is
Mhm.
interesting. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the effects that happen between that time.
And all the in-between moments of us working together. Yeah.
Yes.
Sarah, first let's have you introduce yourself. Who are you? What should we know about you?
Ah, so my name is Sarah, and I feel as though at this point I'm just on a journey, just getting to know myself, parts of myself that I forgot about, parts of myself that I didn't know about. And I'm also developing this relationship with life and discovering things that I want to do or never thought I wanted to do, and delving into my dreams. And along with that, there's also, just like me in my life, I'm married, I have a child, I'm expecting another child. And so I'm really wrapped up in being a mom, which I love. And I'm also a physical therapist, on pause, exploring different ways to reintegrate that back into my life when the time is right.
Totally. Let me ask it this way. Is all of this new changes, or is this something that you've been trying to do for years, this exploration, this newness?
Um, so it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I think up until a certain point, I felt like, I would say a lot of it's things that I've kind of come to, that sometimes I wonder, like, how did I even make that decision, and how present I was in the decision. And then now it's me, like, kind of re-choosing and reintegrating choices that I made from the past and kind of making new ones. But that being said, at the beginning of our journey, like, I had just become pregnant, and I was like, kind of, my career wasn't happy with the way it was, and I didn't know how to navigate that and how to shift it. And also just so many things in my life. I would say my perspective towards those things has shifted so much that somehow the circumstances seem to be changed as well.
Yeah. That's incredible. I would ask, what were you feeling at that time? What was the general feelings that you were going through before we started working together?
I mean, I was already on a journey. I'd realized that I was in a place that I was like really physically stiff and really burnt out.
Yeah.
And really, like, sad, regretful. And I felt like I was just living in the past. Like, I was waking up every morning thinking about all the things I had to do, and ending every day thinking about, like, just like reliving everything that had happened. So, and I started a little bit before I met you with, like, it was an outside in approach, which was like a body, getting to know my body. And that's where I started to feel all these physical restrictions, and there were things coming through, but it was like a very long process. And then, that's where I was at the time when I started working with you. Like, I knew something had to change. I was ready to take accountability, but I felt like I had to work from the inside out.
Yeah. What about trusting life called to you? Because, like, you and I never met in person. And I remember kind of seeing your comments on my Facebook group, and then you were in and you were joining. So I'm curious, like, what called you in? What was that feeling, or what attracted you to the course?
Well, we'd actually done some other courses before. I already did Revive before. But the trusting life in particular was because I believe I'd already given birth to my son, and it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. So, like, I was all, like, amped up from, like, the revive and feeling in touch with my body. And I was like, I can control like everything in my life. And then everything didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen. Yeah. And this was like such a traumatic experience. I couldn't find any resolution. And the trusting life really called me, because I was like seeking and begging to find out how whatever had happened was something that I could trust, something that I could learn from and grow from. So I think that was like the primary. And also all of like the things that I felt like I made mistakes with, like I knew that they could be redeemed, and like that there was something I could learn there, and I was feeling stuck in those like worries and regrets.
Did you get those answers that you were looking for?
Yeah. Which is really cool, because like it's always like I wanted them to come through at a certain time in a certain place, but sometimes I just have to like I know this process, especially from the course, yeah, that like if it doesn't come through now, it's going to come through at some time, and it always does. And I feel like when I stay more open, it really does like show like a light, like, oh my God. And it's still like it builds on itself, the same thing that happened. So
yeah. Well, it reminds me what you're saying is like, I heard this quote once of like, some years it's just a question, and other years it's the answer. And sometimes it's a day that's a question, and a whole, decade of the answer afterwards. And sometimes it's, 10 years of darkness and questioning, and then in a moment it's the answer. But I love that idea of knowing and trusting that any questions we have, the answers will come. We just don't know which moments they'll drop in. Yeah, that's beautiful. I'm curious to know if you remember, what was your first interaction with constellation work? Because most people here don't know what that is, and it's pretty magical. Yeah.
I did so many of them with you. I honestly can't remember my first one, and I look back and tried to, but if I could ask you if I could talk about the family constellation in which I was the client. That I really remember. And then in general, I could talk about all of them.
Totally. I'll just tell quickly the audience, constellation work is taking on an energy in your body that's not you. And then you begin thinking, feeling, speaking, and acting like that new energy. And it has all these messages for you. So it doesn't matter if you know the energy that you're taking on or not, it will just like come into your body and totally start transforming it and moving with it. So yeah, tell me a little bit about the one that you were the client, which means like you were sitting watching and people took on different parts of you or different parts of your life.
Yeah, so that was, I remember the first thing, like when the constellation started, there were a bunch of people in the room, in the Zoom room, not in person. That like, even though I'd never met them before, just being there, like the intention that we set, everyone, I could just tell, wanted to be there. And there was already like this network that I could feel even before everyone took on a role. But I think the most profound thing for me was watching someone who took on the role of me. And what came through was this side of myself, which was so like, it became so real at that moment, but I think I just hadn't faced it. And for real, it was actually sadness. The person who represented me took on such a deep sadness. And watching myself, the role of myself, be in that sadness, exploring how compassionate I was towards this piece of myself, how judgmental I was, how apathetic I was at certain moments. It was just so, and for weeks and months after, like this effect, like this, just holding space for this part of myself that was really like a huge piece. I think it really helps me see myself and hold compassion for myself in a way that I hadn't been able to do before. And the journey that we all took together, of people who all of a sudden became a part of my life, they were so like empathetically excited for my journey. Like after the resolution came, like I felt like everyone was like part of my like joy and excitement, although I didn't necessarily feel it. Like people were just like so like overtaken by the resolution that occurred
What
between
was
my
the
family
resolution?
members.
If you want to share any of it.
It had to be the resolution, I think, was first of all this expression of the sadness that like just kept coming out, like the bawling, the weeping, the collapsing, and like everyone just witnessing that was one huge part. And then also my parents, who there was a resolution there. Not like their circumstances changed, but just like pieces of emotions that came out that maybe weren't able to come out like in the story level of life, but on the soul level. So there's just like a lot of love and tenderness behind like the story that can feel so like concrete and limiting. So
Totally. What Constellations does a lot of times is it gives you the thing that you can't get in real life. It a lot of times what I see over and over again is like the parent finally steps up and says like, you weren't given what you deserved and you deserved more. And just like hearing that, even if like your parent might not never say that in real life because they're not, you know, emotionally aware enough, or they might not be with us even anymore, but like hearing that, like it heals the body in a way that like we can't get just by like giving ourselves self-love or meditating or yoga or all the other ways that we try to move through energy. So having someone in the role of that parent and saying the things that you so deeply always needed, just already like within you changes that narrative that you had. And that's what it sounds like happened there. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, yeah, I think it also like cultivated a shift in my relationship with my parents, which is, you know, interesting. Like, because it didn't just exist there, like it transformed, you know, helped me hold more compassion and space for my parents. And
exactly. Which then changes how you relate to them and how they relate to you. Because like when everybody's in a dance and one of the dancers changes a dance move, like the whole dance changes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that metaphor.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah, it's true.
So that was when you were a client and like,
yeah.
and you saw shifts from that afterwards.
Yeah, it's still happening. Yeah. I'd love to, I have the recording. I could watch it again. Who knows? But yeah.
Tell us, go ahead.
No, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I would love to hear, because you were saying you were a client and then maybe the most profound role that you've taken on, which means like somebody else was the client and they asked you to take on a role. Do you remember what role that was?
Oh yeah, there were two instances. One is a little more vague where I don't remember the role, but whatever the role was, there was a feeling of confidence. So I didn't take on the role of confidence, but whoever the person was, I could feel like my body changing, the way I was standing, the way I was feeling. And for me, an issue that I've been working with through my work with you is difficulty being seen. And that for me came off as like a lack of confidence, like a closure, not wanting to be too big or too tall and shrinking. And this was like a really like cool like download of confidence.
Totally.
And that experience was, because I had it, I felt like I could tap back into it at different times, but I could also feel myself going back into my old. So just having that, all of a sudden being able to choose it, but like in a real way, was very interesting.
It's so cool. Like instead of conceptualizing like just be confident or like have a mantra of like I am confident, like you had a download of it where your whole body felt confidence for like an hour, where you're in this other character who's super confident, and it started changing your body chemistry and everything. And then it became part of your history, because now when you think back to your past, yes, Sara has her whole history with confidence, but there was an hour there where she was actually super confident, where she can now like just remember and go back to that memory, and it changes you. Yeah.
And doing it with other people and like being witnessed and it having an effect on
totally
the whole. Yeah.
Tell us another role. Did you have another one?
Yes, another role. Oh, okay, wait, it blinked. But okay, this other role. Oh my God, I took on the world, the role of the world.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the theme of the whole constellation, but I broke down as the world. I felt like this tremendous, like like so massive and big, and like such a love for everyone in the room. Like I was like endless, like it had so much space, but then at the same time I was so vulnerable. And like I think afterwards I thought the world would be like this, like very, it was just so interesting. And to have this crushing like feeling of like my dependency or my relationship with the people that I was holding. It was like this, I wasn't just the world. I was like, yeah. So that was like a really, and I remember crying, and I remember the cry was so like, it was so.
It was weeping. I remember it being like
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I was laying down.
Yeah.
It was like I needed to be held.
Yeah. And I'll just give the audience a quick context of, I don't plan any of the lessons for Trusting Life or any of the coursework I do, because the group creates what we're learning. So that first session was about safety, about creating safety in the body. And what came through was that the world needed to come in, and Sara took on the role of the world, and she started weeping. And the person started needing to give to the world. If I don't know if you remember that, but we needed to start giving to the world. And it was such a clear takeaway of like, if you feel stuck or if you feel depressed, like get up and volunteer, like get up, get out of yourself, and like find something that's even more vulnerable than you. Like if you don't feel safe, go and make the world feel a little safer. You know, go volunteer, go to soup kitchen, go clean up the beach, go do something. And if you're part of the safety for the world, like you're going to start creating safety in your body. It was such a profound teaching from that was our first session. Yeah.
That was interesting life.
Yeah, that was the first session to Trusting Life. Yeah.
And I just remember the role of a child, like some child role was she was so.
Yeah. We do a lot of that with just kind of bringing up like all the vulnerable pieces, because those are the pieces that we don't touch and look at. Those are the ones that hold us back. So same thing with when you were a client, like that part of you, that sadness that you've suppressed, like that actually was the part that was holding you back from moving forward. And it's ironic of like moving forward is actually taking your sadness with you, integrating her. Yeah. I'm just curious, just these are always fun. What was like the hardest role for you to take on? Or the one that was like least like you, maybe?
Oh, the most recent.
Tell us.
Ricky did like, yeah, she did like a series of free constellations. And one was, the theme was, I don't remember the theme. It wasn't self-sabotage. Oh, it was letting money in.
Yeah.
And I ended up, I wanted to take on the role of something else. I don't remember what it was. And all of a sudden, someone was asking me to be their husband. And I was just like, I remember saying like, oh my God, like, and just thinking like, not even thinking. I mean, I guess I was kind of thinking, but then it would all just happen too fast. And then all of a sudden I was in this role, but I kept thinking like, is this real? Because I was so sensitive. I was a man, but I was crying and I was really vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was someone who passed away, apparently, which is not something I was necessarily aware of, but somebody else in the constellation who had no idea that I had passed away or who I was tapping into, she knew and she could feel it, and she asked if I was alive or not. So
could you feel it too when she asked you that you died or you passed away?
No, I couldn't feel it. But then I was asked the question, how was I still alive? In what way was I still like living on? And that answer came very intuitively. Like, I felt, what I said was, I was like a part of everything. Like, I was a part of the breeze. I was a part of the movement in the world. I was a part of everything. And then ironically, I watched like this series, and it was like the same idea that when people died, when they set them free from the land of the dead, they all become a part of everything. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I never thought about it. Like, yeah, it was like really like I guess I had that answer, but I guess it was coming through, but I wasn't off that. I don't know if I really like let myself feel into it, but I'm glad that I just, however, whatever layer or whatever level I was able to, I just express as much as I could.
Something that I love that trusting life has taught me is that you can only trust life as much as you can trust death. So your relationship to death also truly, truly helps navigate your relationship to life. So like having that experience where you're like, you become part of everything, and your body also becomes totally part of everything. It disperses into, you know, the earth and nature, and our spirits also disperse into everything in a spiritual way. And like, yeah. And having that experience while you're still alive to now. Yeah.
I think in reflection and as I thought about it after, and I said I was scared to think that I played someone who was dead, and I realized there's some resistance in me around death.
Yeah,
which is kind of cool to face, because
totally.
I think I would look at life differently, like you said, the way.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you also for your answers. What I love about constellation work is that the roles choose you, and then they have ripple effects. So the course themselves are so fun. It's like a carnival. You never know what's going to happen every week. We open it up. You have no idea when you step into a role what's going to become exposed, what's going to move through. But then there's like the after the course is over. And what I love is you have such a unique experience because you took the course a year ago and you're about to start again. And what has been your experience this past year since the course has been over?
A lot.
Mm-hmm.
Really a lot. Because, well, I can say for sure, first of all, that trusting life for me has also been a journey of trusting my own intuition and inner voice in the face of like a lot of opposing thoughts and ideas. And just being a mom, like having like a very deep, like a not so deep, it's a voice within me that is guiding me on telling me how to raise my son. And I have 1,000, well, not even 1,000, it's all the same message, but it's different than mine. And trusting that voice has been scary at times. Like it's gonna, shift my relationships, it's gonna ruin my relationships with people. But I continue to trust life and trust my intuition. And it's uncomfortable at times. And first, like putting forth that my truth is like scary. And it does seem like there's a rift at first, but then that rift becomes like this wave that puts me into like, it crashes and puts me into an even better like root. And sometimes maybe I'm disconnected from the people that I was in the before, but at least for now, it's kept me in the same path, but just in a more like, for me, it feels like I'm showing up more in that relationship. So
amazing.
There's that.
Any tangible things, like anything that you could we could catch on camera of like things that you've done, things you've created?
Yeah. Okay, so I had this idea that I wanted to do this retreat, and I started putting it forth, this idea. One retreat didn't happen, second retreat didn't happen, third retreat happened. And it was just like an incredible manifestation of something that I'd never seen myself doing, but having a calling and then putting it out there into the world and like taking the steps towards it and having people come through to partner with, having people that showed up till the very last minute, till we were fully booked. And then even then, like things happening where I got sick, but like really like, was this the right thing? Maybe this wasn't the right thing. And then also just trusting. Other tangible things is actually just after doing, so these family constellations, they're really difficult for me to join the free ones. And so by the skin of my hair, by the hair of my skin, I don't know what the phrase is, I was able to make them. And they had such a tremendous impact. Like I did something I've been trying to do, which is like clean out my closet and organize my room. And that has had like, that's like, I know it sounds like so mundane and silly, but it's had such a like
Oh, it's
tremendous
huge.
shift. It's huge. Like, oh my God, like it's crazy how I feel so different. Like I go in my closet, I can just choose what I want. I got rid of the thing. It's crazy. And I also started doing some other things like really tangible in my basement, in my office.
And that was just from taking on that role of somebody who passed?
Actually the first was self-sabotage. I was just holding space. That one
Got it. You were
happened
just
in
watching it and it just kind of
yeah.
got you to stop self-sabotaging.
Yeah, two like through three big areas. My career, my career was like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like that was a big one. Like the part that didn't want to have success turned into a river. And I was like, what? Like a river? Like I thought this has to be like an idea. But then like all of a sudden it started coming through and I was like feeling like I had things like that were easy for me to flow into. Maybe they weren't exactly what I thought, but then I realized like if I go with this, like I could go with this and it could bring all these, it doesn't mean have to be this way forever, but this could be like an awesome flow, you know? So yeah, a lot happened from just those last two.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Two last questions. You're about to do this a second time. Why? Like, why? That's pretty crazy if you're saying, constellation work can be uncomfortable.
Because I can't stand the discomfort of the way that things were, which was not having space to dream, not giving myself the permission to have a relationship with the unknown, not having the excitement of like the unknown. Like I just can't, I know what it's like to live in the past and be stuck, feel like I'm just like bringing the past back into my present all the time. Like that was just where I was. And I know that I've come a far way, but I also know, if I lean into this a little more, like I just feel there's so much more. There's just so much more.
Yeah.
The more that I can like do this to like what I can't see, it's just like the potential is so crazy. And so many things have come through for me in my life, in my work for you. So many things that I wanted and desired and thought I could never have. Relationships, community,
Leadership.
so many things. Leadership, self-love,
Yeah.
improved communication.
Yeah. Huge. I make the courses partially for me, just because I need that. And constellation work is so deepening and widening at the same time. And there's so much wisdom trying to come in that I've never walked away. Even something so silly, like I've done a constellation work on somebody with like her anxiety about like her MCATs. And like I walked away with so much wisdom about education and self-worth and love. Like you're never going to know what you're going to get with constellation work, which I love, but it's always very pointed to you. It's always tailor-made for you, whether you're the client in a role or just watching. Like it has a lesson there for you. The last question that I have, and thank you so much for doing this live with me, is what would you say to anyone who's kind of on the fence about this investment for themselves?
Oh, so many investments that we make. Thousands and thousands of dollars towards college, weddings. I just, I can't, I just, I say, all I can say is that like I have put all spend like there's nothing more important. Like I know this within deep in my bones and my soul that I'm like the vehicle to this life. I am the vehicle. Like my education, it can only take me so far. Like what am my career is gonna define me. It's gonna bring me the excitement that I need forever and ever. No, all these things that I invested in, like they just, I feel like if I invest in myself, like I don't know, the limitations are there's no limitations. That's what I feel. And I feel like being a human being with a soul, like the more that I enhance the connection between the two, and the bigger and wider I become, like I just become so much more than my circumstances. I think that's really like what it comes down to. It feels so freeing and makes me, yeah.
Makes you what?
I just feel so much more like connected to everything. I feel more empowered, but I also feel more humble.
You find your place in this big giant solar system, which is like you are one speck, but also the world couldn't go on without you. You had to be created. So like holding both. And like what I'm hearing is like when you touch your own endlessness, the future becomes endless as well. So by like going inward into your own microcosm universe, you finally feel the universe around you as well. It like turns it on. Yeah.
Cool. I think I've been yearning for that all along, you know, relying on my family system, relying on this, relying on that. I think and just going within myself has been the most grounding, expansive, but also the most connecting, which is exactly what you're saying. It's
the paradox of it is like when we connect to ourselves, we become connected to everything. And when we take accountability for ourselves, we finally find the support we were looking for as well. Yeah. It's so within, so without. It just kind of works that way. Yeah. Thank you so much. Just for the audience, Trusting Life is starting February 6th on Mondays at 1 to 3 p.m. New York time. $1,600 to come in. It's 4 months long, so we go all the way until June, which is really great. We're really doing the depth work here to really make sure we commit to ourselves and make this year the most profound year that we can make. If you want to also work one-on-one with me, there's a way to make it a hybrid. So you're working in the group and with me as well. And yeah, that's what I have to say. Sara, thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. I know you're a mom and busy and all of that. So thank you.
I'm so happy to be here. And thank you so much for everything. Like I said, like everything that we've done together is never just like in that session.
It ripples.
Having effects. Yeah, still. So I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Have such a good night, everybody, and hope you enjoy your week. Bye, loves.